Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of the Paperback Club podcast. My name's Aliyes Richard. With me, as always, is Richard Knox.
Whoop, whoop.
And today, a special but possible permanent, maybe not, guest, Cameron Dell, my brother.
He could be a permanent guest.
You're a permanent guest.
Permanent guest.
Mm-hmm.
I love
it. Like the Tonight Show has like that guy who's always in the corner or whatever. He's on the show, but he's like not, but he is.
No, you think of like Conan. Conan has, what's his name? Andy something.
Something, yeah.
He's wonderful. He's also just as big as Conan in my eyes.
Yeah, so Andy something over here.
But I mean, a guest we always just have on. Like, randomly. Like, we'll have a guest, but he's always the one that's going to come back.
Yeah. So I think
You can't get out of it, is what I'm saying. Like, as long as this podcast is a thing, you're going to be on it.
Well, I think he has the highest number of guest appearances on our show.
Oh, yeah.
2.
Well, I mean, besides...
2.
Well, for guest appearances, yeah.
Yeah, that's also true.
Yeah. So today we are talking about what is your worst or best, depending on your depiction of it, personal injury. Physical only, not mental. I've never broken a single bone on my body. The closest I've ever gotten...
I second that. I have also never broken a bone.
I've never either.
The closest I've ever gotten was a hairline fracture on my thumb. I was playing basketball. Someone threw the ball at me and went...
That's the weakest shit I've heard all week.
You know what I'm saying? In terms of closest to a broken bone, that's the closest.
Yeah.
That's not my worst injury.
It's like, what happened, man? I was playing some b-ball.
You know, sports. I missed it by an inch.
Right.
I mean, it hurt, right? But it wasn't my worst injury. I had a cast, not a cast.
I was about to say a whole cast. You might as well have broken it. I would have told everyone I broke my whole arm. Every bone broke 3 times.
Yeah, well, so it was my right hand, which I'm right-handed, and they put a little, I forget what it's called, but it's like a stick or something to keep it straight.
A stint?
Yeah, that. And
a stick stint.
And I had a wrap, so it looked as if, though, I may have broken it.
A splint.
Maybe.
A splint is like a big one, like for your leg, so you don't move.
So it was like a miniature splint.
Yeah, a stint.
So I had that.
Maybe it is a splint, and a stint is something I think you get in your heart.
Oh shit! We need a medical professional on
I'm
this
not
podcast.
a doctor, theoretically.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, so that was the worst injury. No, just kidding. So I had that, and it looked as if though I had broken my hand. And of course, I was in high school. The running joke was,
You touch yourself too much?
too much. World record. So like, oh, I know what you did to break your hand.
I would hate to be bullied for that. Out of all the things, I'd rather get bullied that, I have like a lazy eye or something.
Oh, true.
Oh.
All right, well, you guys have a good day.
Oh shit.
Yeah, so quick question of the week. What is your worst personal injury?
And what is your most embarrassing one too? Because your worst one might not be your most embarrassing
That's 2
one.
different categories.
Yeah.
All right, Cameron, you want to
Very
start?
true.
Or do you need more time?
No, I
You just
can.
woke up.
I don't really.
He's like, how
I
many
did just
bones
wake
do
up.
I have to remember?
1 second. This podcast is brought to you by no one.
Not yet. So.
Red Bull.
Geez. Worst personal injury. Let's see. I guess the most recent one would have to be a couple months ago in Utah when I was living there, and me and the boys we were getting a little crazy. You know what I'm saying? We were having a bit of fun.
Sauced up.
And so we had this running thing. It was called a backflip check.
Oh, I remember
Called a
this.
backflip check. So there's a thing while you're drinking, and it's a balance check, right? You guys know balance check? Mm-hmm. So you just stand on one foot.
Oh no!
So
I never had that
basically,
before.
one of our
please
friends.
don't ever do that to me.
Kind of like walk the line.
Yeah. So basically, one of our friends always wanted to leave because he didn't want to stay the night, but we knew he's been drinking. So like the thing is like you'd be like, all right, balance check, and if you can balance on one foot, then you'd be good to drive.
Okay.
Like, that's the thing. So
Not legally. We don't condone this at all.
not at all. Don't ever.
This
don't
is all
ever.
hypothetical.
Put a disclaimer up. Don't try this at home. Don't try this at home.
But so Jaden one night was like, he was like, all right, backflip check, and we. It was always a running joke. We were always like, all right, backflip check, and we'd always like joke
I
around.
can only
like,
imagine what it was like hearing that for the first time.
Oh, dude.
What?
Yeah.
Are you sure? Are you sure?
That's pretty much how it was. But then one night, we're getting pretty good, but we were having fun. And he was like, all right, backflip check. I was like, all right. He was like, huh? I was like, yeah, backflip check right now. Move this glass table out from the middle of our
That could be fun.
living room. And then, so yeah, I did the backflip. I landed on my leg. My toe went straight into the ground, straight down.
Maybe we'll put in a picture right here.
I'll try to remember.
Yeah. The first thing I felt was my leg. I didn't feel my toe whatsoever. My leg hurt the most throughout the night. The next day, I woke up, my toe was purple. It was swollen. I could not go to work. I could not walk. I'm pretty sure I fractured it because it still hurts till this day.
Did you go to the doctor?
No.
Oh, even better.
So I think that's the most recent worst one. If we want to get into embarrassing,
Go ahead.
I was in freshman year, I believe, and we were living in Virginia at
That's
the
the
time.
best time to be embarrassed.
Yeah. And I was walking with some friends, my friend Laura and my friend Tyler, and we were walking back to our apartment. And so walking back to our apartment, there was a shopping area to where there was like a Wendy's and stuff like that, but also like it was close to this storage place. And next to the storage place was these two like really tall like bush things, like separation, you know what I mean? And they're like really tall hedges or whatever. And so I don't even know how it got brought on, but we were being stupid and we were like running into it. And I think Tyler was the first one to do it because Tyler's crazy. I love him, but he's fucking crazy. And he would like run into it and we'd like just being dumb, you know what I mean? So then I was like, all right, hold my drink. So I run into it like full on force. I run, jump into a ball, go into it. It bounces me back out. I land on the ground, smack my arm. And so now, underneath my tattoo, I actually have a scar that runs all the way down my arm. And I was just bleeding, just straight bleeding from that. And what made it so embarrassing was our friend was driving by with his mom on this main street, right?
Is that your friend?
So like my arm is just bleeding, like they're trying to like hold it, make sure you know it doesn't get all everywhere. And my friend Logan, his mom and him pull up off this main road, and they're like, "Hey, do you guys need a ride?" Like
to the hospital?
They're like, "Yeah, please." And so what ended up happening was Logan had to fucking take off his shirt, and I had to wrap my arm in his shirt, and then they drove us home, and then
drove you home. Like, I hope your arm's gonna be okay.
Yeah.
See you, kid.
Yeah. So
Hope you don't
I think
bleed out
that's
on your
pretty
bed in the
embarrassing.
middle of the night.
That was probably the most embarrassing because I didn't even realize that my arm was that bad.
It's like,
I like got up and
it's
like
just
I felt
but the wound.
I got up and I felt completely fine, and then I don't know where I felt like a little drip on my arm. I was like,
Interesting.
all right, well, cool.
My arm's a little cold.
Oh, wow. Yeah, so I've never broken a bone. I think, it's kind of hard to say what is my worst injury because I don't think I remember all of them necessarily. But at this moment, one of the big ones that sticks out to me is when we used to live in Pendleton. You know how like all the houses on a block was like facing the street, so like everyone's backyards is facing each other or whatever, and there's a park in the middle.
So I lived on the opposite side.
That's right.
So my neighborhood was actually very different from that.
Okay.
It was a little flat top with houses, and there was houses and a road, then houses, and then it would go a hill, another road, houses, hill, another road.
Gotcha. So on one section of Pendleton, there's like a block, right? And there's houses on like the edge of that block or whatever, and then they're facing the street. So everyone's backyard is facing someone else's backyard, and there's usually a park in there. Well, we were playing football one day, and so they threw it, and I went to catch it, and I wasn't looking where I was going, and there's a vine bush or something, the one that had like the pricks and shit, like little things.
Sure, yeah.
And it was a pretty tall one, so I ran straight through it without even realizing what happened, and I got cut from my knee to my toe or my ankle. Just sliced across the entire leg.
One slice.
Wait, I do remember that.
Well, not like vertical, like sideways, like horizontal. Like there was like a bush this high. Each one had a little prick on it, and my leg just went shoo. So my entire leg, knee to calf,
was just a whole bunch of scratches.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
It
I
was-
thought you
that.
just miraculously made it out safe, except for one thorn that got you and scratched you from your ankle straight up to your knee.
No, it was all horizontal, and it had like lines all the way down.
Yeah, this
the
one
leg.
sounds worse.
Yeah, and that was I mean, it was a lot of blood, and it healed up pretty nicely, actually. But I did get it where, like, a cast. I felt like Rock Lee, you know?
A cast?
No, I keep saying cast. Bandage.
Okay. I was like, what is going on? What doctor did you see?
For real.
Dr.
He's like,
Cast.
You gotta cut.
He's like, oh,
Cast.
Call 1-800
need a cast.
cast.
I have a headache. I prescribed it to you, so you got to get it.
Right, that's how Dead Mouse got started. It was a cast on his head.
That's funny.
Oh, shit.
I think all of the... I've never had any, like, severe injury that was not embarrassing. Anything that's ever happened to me that's been on the higher level of, like, severity has been embarrassing. So, in my life, I think I've split my head open, like, 3 or 4 times.
I have a...
And 2 or 3 of those 4 times was from the same ceiling fan in my room. I had a bunk bed, and I never liked using the little ladder, so I just climbed from bunk to bunk, and I would push up on the top bunk and right on the ground.
Yeah.
And then the last time I split my head open was also kind of embarrassing. That was probably one of my worst injuries. Me and my brother, my mom had a business trip in New York, so she went to New York, and my uncle was watching me, my brother, and my sister, and we had to clean the kitchen floor. So we like cleaned it really well, and we started sliding on the ground with our socks, right?
Done that
And
before.
so I'm at one side of the kitchen looking in like our pantry where all the snacks are and stuff, and my brother goes and he slides all the way down, and his foot, I mean, barely touched mine. Barely. If it even touched my foot, right? That's how barely it was. And I tried to be dramatic, and I lifted up one leg like, oh my God. And I forgot that it was slippery. So my other foot slipped right from out of me, and my head hit a corner of a table. And I didn't realize how bad it was. I remember getting up and being like, oh man, that like freaking hurt. I just banged my head. And then I looked at my hand, and my hand was covered in blood. And that's when, like, I'm a little kid, man.
Yeah.
I don't even remember. I had to be like, maybe like 11, 12. And maybe even like earlier than that. Yeah. And so I saw that, and I freaked out. My uncle runs out of his bathroom, like, with a half-shaven face and everything, with, like, shaving cream. He's like, what's happening? And I couldn't even tell him what happened, right? This is exactly how it happened. I went, So my uncle has to rush us to the hospital, half-shaven face.
Oh, God.
And they wanted to put staples in my head.
Yeah.
But my uncle said, look, if his mom comes back from New York and he has staples in his head, she's going to kill me. So they glued my head flat back down.
Oh, God.
And we've been gravy ever since. So all those times are pretty embarrassing. And
Now,
then,
did your mom know about that?
oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
I say surprise.
She's like, man, there's something sticking in your head. It's just a super glue. What do you say, right? Especially if you don't say that you went to the hospital first, and I just tell her my head got glued back together. Who did that? Because I didn't realize that was an actual thing that you could do, right?
No.
So I'm sure in her head, if she thought that part, it'd be like, your uncle glued your head back together? How did this seem like a good idea?
Yeah. Yeah, I haven't had too many hospital visits for personal injuries, but here's a question. Have you ever fainted? Mm-mm. Not due to alcohol, like passing out, but like just fainted.
Yes.
No. What?
Yes. And actually, I would say it's a near-death experience as well.
What? The
Well, I mean,
fainting
it's like-
part,
it's
or what
like-
made you faint?
Like
The fainting
flatlining.
part.
It's like a near-death experience?
For me.
I mean,
I've never tried.
are you familiar with flatliners?
People who die? And
No.
they get brought back to
Oh
life?
yes, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
I just said it.
So, no, I know what it is, but I'm not familiar with it. Yeah, it's kind of like that, you know, because like you.
Well, I mean, I'm not
just
really
fade
familiar.
away.
I've never died and got brought back to
You
life.
should try it.
It's a great experience, man.
Yeah, no. The only time I think I've ever fainted was I'm not like a bad with blood. Like I'll literally watch like Saw 3 while I'm eating like mashed potatoes and gravy. You know.
Well,
Like,
I mean, it'd be
gore and
different if you were
blood.
watching Saw 3 while eating like a medium rare steak.
I can do that too. So I'm not like gory, gruesome like that. Whatever. Like I can do it. But so when I cut my thumb, I went to the
that's
hospital.
right.
Yeah, that might be one of the worst ones. When I cut my thumb, I went to the hospital and they had to numb my hand like right in the, I don't know what that's called, part of your hand.
Your thumb muscle.
Yeah, my thumb muscles part. So they put numbing cream in there and then let it, sit for a couple minutes.
Did they inject the cream?
Yeah. Yeah, they creamed my hand. And then I couldn't feel it anymore. And then they came and started stitching it up. And I like I said, I'm normally really good with blood. Like, I'm not going to pass out because someone's puking or, bleeding out, whatever. But
Bleeding out or
because
whatever.
it was
That was a big
mine.
jump.
Yeah, so I'm sitting there watching him do it. He's just like going, prick a prick, and then I feel it. The numbing cream didn't fully either it didn't work at all or it just didn't fully work. So I kind of felt it, but so I was watching him do it, and then I'm like, okay, this isn't bad. It hurts a little bit, and then I'm like, whoa. And just
your body's like, hey man, something is wrong.
Yeah, my stomach like flipped, and next thing I know, I wake up in a proceeding bed in a medical chair.
You were out.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and now that in retrospect, I didn't think about it at the time. I was just focused on my thumb. But in retrospect, I realized that I didn't have breakfast that day, and I hadn't had anything to eat.
And then
I lost blood. So that was a pretty interesting experience. And then, my dad was there. And I mean, he's my dad, so he's like, oh, shit, like, I don't want him to be hurt and whatever, But after it happened, after I was good, he goes, man, I wish I would have recorded that.
Well, yeah, that sounds like something my dad would have done. I'm sure he would have cared.
He said, you went white like that.
Ghost.
Like, in and out. Yeah, because I was like, hey, I don't feel... And then, my head just fell back. I tried keeping it up. It just fell straight back. And then my eyes were closed. And I could hear everything. And I could, feel everything. But I could not open my eyes for the life of me. I even, I was fully conscious when they picked me up and put me on not a gurney, but, a chair or whatever. And brought me into, an operating room. And they had to elevate me so my head was down so the blood kept going back to my head.
Oh, wow.
It was a little crazy. That was probably my craziest hospital experience. But like I said, hairline fractures are about as bad as it gets for me.
Yeah, did they give you a cast for that?
Yes.
Yeah, I had an experience kind of like that, and this was my most recent experience with getting injured, and it was actually a very long time ago. I'm a very safe person, so this had to be maybe 9 years ago. I cut my fingers really bad, and again, it's embarrassing because when I tell people that I almost cut my fingers off, they're like, oh, what were you doing? And me and my friends decided we wanted to make bows and arrows. So we went out into the woods behind his house and we chopped down trees and we were shaving them down and making everything, and we finally had the bows and we're like, hey, let's make the arrows. So my friend Taylor was making the slit on the back of the arrow that goes on the string. And when he did it, the knife popped out. It was like a skinning knife, and he nicked his thumb. And it was pretty deep. But all they did was push it together and glued it. Right?
Oh, gosh.
And I'm assuming it healed right. But then I'm making it one, and Taylor's like, hey, man, you should be really careful because that knife is stupid sharp. I'm like, I got this. So I'm holding the stick, and I'm cutting it up here, and it split the stick in half. And I hit my finger with the knife. So the tip of the knife hit my middle finger knuckle up here. And so they're like, dude, you need to go to the hospital. And I'm looking at it. I'm like, it looks like a cat scratch. Like, I'm going to be fine. Like, get out of here. And my friend's sister came out with, a cloth for me to dab. So I dabbed it, and then I lifted it up, and I saw the whole insides of my fingers. And I said, oh, my God. And I put it back on. I said, guys, we need to go to the hospital. And I had my friend drive my car there. And I remember getting to the hospital, and they gave me this doggy pee pad. That's the only thing I can describe it looking like. It's exactly like a doggy pee pad. And they put gauze on my finger, wrapped my hand in that. And I'm just sitting in the waiting room, holding my whole arm, trying not to bleed everywhere. And the doctor finally gets in, and he put the numbing cream in my finger. So he did for my index finger, he put it in my knuckle. And
that's a weird feeling.
Yeah, and then for the one that was in my knuckle, he put it directly into the cut. Well, he came back. He's like, "Hey, is it numb?" I was like, "I don't know. I've never had this happen before." I'm like, maybe. And so he goes, "Okay, well, let's check." Literally grabs the stuff to clean the cut and just starts scrubbing it.
Ooh,
it was not numb. So I remember jerking up out of the seat, and I was like, "It's not numb." So he said, "Okay, let's try this." He grabs more and actually puts it in my cut, and then massages my knuckle to try to get all that stuff circulate. Then he comes back 5 minutes later. He goes, "So is it numb now?" I was like, I don't know. Last time you just went ham. So he's messing with it, and you can see that I can't feel it. So he starts scrubbing it, and I can literally see the opening in my finger just jerking back open and everything. He shows me my tendon and where I nicked it. He said, "You see that white line?" I'm like, "Yeah." He goes, "That's your tendon." He goes, "You see that little cross around it?" He goes, I was like, "Yeah, I see that." He goes, "That's where you nicked it." He said, "If you wouldn't have jerked up like you did, you would have cut that, and that would have been bad." He goes, "Also, if you wouldn't have jerked up like you did, it probably wouldn't have been so gaping." Damn. So stitched it up, and I still got him to this day.
Yeah. Also with my thumb. So after it happened and they stitched it back up, a lot of pressure started building up, and it was really bad. It was throbbing and hurting, whatever. So I went back to the doctor, and he said, "Let me try something." So he said, "Put your thumb out," and he grabs my thumb and he just pushes on it as hard as he can. I think that was one of the most painful experiences of my entire life. It hurt like hell. But like as soon as he finished, like all the pressure was gone. I was like, okay, I feel good. But god damn,
It's
that
like
shit hurts so fucking
this old
bad.
comedy movie that has one of the Wayne brothers in it, and he's like a drill instructor who goes to like this like kids school academy thing. I can't remember what it's called right now, but at the beginning, his friend in war is like really hurt, like probably about to die, and he goes, "My legs like hurt so bad" or something, and the drill instructor goes, "Here, let me see this," and then breaks his pinky. He's like, "Your legs don't hurt that bad anymore, do they?" Something like that.
Damn. So yeah, I think like I said, those were my worst injuries. Fortunately, but also, injuries
As soon as this podcast is over, we get
Can I give you your dumbest injury?
Yes.
and I'll give you yours.
So, all right. So
Was it the skate park?
no, we were in elementary school, and this is whenever we were in Camp Pendleton, and
Santa Margarita.
we were kids, we walked home from school. And so there's this little path we would take, which we weren't supposed to take, by the way. We all got in trouble by the school.
It was a cool ass path, though.
It was a cool ass path. It went through like this wood part, this
thorn bushes.
the I don't know, wildlife part or whatever, you know what I mean? So us kids, we would walk through there to get home. We walked through there a couple of times before we got caught. But our friend Kenneth. He's a character. Our friend Kenneth, he had on steel-toed boots one day. And my brother wanted to try them out. He was like, I've never had steel-toed boots before. Like, I'm curious, like, how does this stuff work? Okay, I get it.
Stuff work?
I get it, like
it's a machine.
I get it, like, it's steel-toed boots. Like, it's supposed to protect your toes and stuff. But, like, let's see how well it can protect. So, we're walking. My brother wants to try
with a foot in it.
Yeah, I'm wearing the boot.
What did I say?
No, that's what I'm saying. It's like we wanted to test it out with a foot in it.
Yeah.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, I'm like, what?
Yes.
I'm wearing the shoe.
Yeah, so Elias is wearing the shoe now. And we're in California, and so there's cactuses everywhere. Guess what he does? Can you finish the story?
You don't kick the cactus.
I kick it as hard as I can.
It misses the entire steel plate, whatever's in that shoe, goes straight into his foot.
Straight into it.
Right, that's what you get. That's what you get. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
I could not, dude. This man kicks the hell out of this cactus.
You're not big on science, are you, right? It's a whole process you have to go to before you do human tests.
Nah, I'm very progressive.
It went every which way other than where that plate was.
How is getting your foot out of there? You had to take all the pricks out of the shoe first, right?
I don't remember.
I don't remember.
I think I took a couple out and
They're
then
like stuck in the shoe and your foot, so your foot can't get out.
Well, I think I got some of it out of the boot, and then when I took my actual foot out, there was still some in my foot. Like it went straight through.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Like straight through the shoe into my skin. So it was like in my skin.
So this man had to walk home with his sock off, limping and stuff.
Up that hill.
Up the hill.
Too. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And we lived all the way up, like second
4th Street,
or third to the last
Yo,
to the top.
dummies.
Oh yeah, that was crazy.
was
I stepped on a nail when I was a kid. I forgot about that one. Went right into my foot.
This is terrible.
So like the next time we took that path, I was like, "Hey, Elias, you want to go kick that
I was
cactus?"
like, nah, I'm good.
Now, what's his dumbest one?
Well, let me guess. Would it be the bike?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
like, could it be anything else other than that?
Again, Pendleton. And
Like I did a lot of dumb stuff out there
Look,
too,
okay.
so I'm like in my head, I'm
Yeah,
like,
right.
yeah, this sounds right. Anytime I just hear Pendleton,
The Pendleton podcast. Anyone living in Pendleton, if you're not doing stupid shit, you're not doing it right. So bikes were the big thing. Everybody had a bike. What we didn't have was a bike park, like a skate park for bikes. So my man here,
those exist.
somewhere I'm sure. I mean BMX, right?
True, but I
don't
figured
think
that's
it's
just like a skate
residential.
park.
Yeah, maybe. Anyways, we didn't have a skate park regardless. And my man's here goes, let's build the ramp.
I've also done this.
Yeah, so they got the ramp, and he's riding his bike, and short story, he fucks up. Teeth first to the concrete.
Ooh, let me see them. Oh, you can't.
They
even
healed it
barely
nicely
tell.
now, but I mean, his running name for a while was the Black Tooth, the Rising Sun.
Yep. By my dad.
The black
Because
tooth.
we played
Did you
Medal
lose
of
a
Honor.
tooth?
metal.
No,
Oh.
I think it like no, I think
Busted through your lip.
Yeah, and the blood
Ooh.
stopped, so it wouldn't. It was black. Black Tooth,
Gotcha.
and we were playing Medal of Honor, Rising Sun. So he said, "Black Tooth, the Rising Sun."
Yep. The only problem with that story is we didn't make that ramp.
Got him.
I went
He
with
found it. Christian.
I went with Christian down to this cul-de-sac to where this ramp was already set up, like in the corner that led
I'm
to
just
a
gonna
park.
borrow this.
So I was pretty far from home. I had to walk.
They're never
home.
gonna find where that ramp was.
I had to walk home with like a cloth that some lady gave me because she heard me screaming, crying.
What is
down
up with
the
these
street.
people and not helping children? Do you need to go to the hospital? Let me take you home. You are a child and you are severely injured.
We're bleeding. Here's some cloth.
So I'm like
Go
screaming,
home.
crying because I just went face planted off this ramp and like
hardcore.
walking home, and Christian's like helping me, and people are like coming out of their houses like,
Why is that
what's
kid
going on?
crying?
Screaming kid.
Yeah, like, oh, dude, that was the longest walk ever.
Yes, I mean, like I said, we don't have too many terrible injuries, which is good and bad. You know, bad for stories, good for our physical health. But I do have a couple of stories I want to say about some neighbors and some other people I've known. Same environment where we had the park in between all the places. We had a really old like wooden park, and then they went to destroy it and build up a plastic park.
Ooh, I know. Ooh.
Yep. So they took apart the wooden park and they rebuilt it with like plastic parts, right? So no wood, no metal, no nails.
Yeah, it's kind of like how our park downtown was. We had this giant, magnificent, wooden, crazy,
yeah.
mind mess with you park.
So this guy, the construction team or whatever, came in and they ripped the park, and then what they did, which probably is not a good idea, is once they destroyed it, they left all the parts on the park. They put a tape around it saying do not enter. But my
You're a
neighbor,
kid.
my neighbors, there were two kids, a boy and a girl, roughly the same age. I think one was older, and they go and they're playing in the stuff. And I forget exactly what happened or caused it, but through one means or another, the older brother takes a long wooden stick with a nail on the end of it and smacks his sister in the head.
No. So what happened was
I don't
there was
remember
these
anything.
long metal poles that were part of the playground, and he picks one up, and obviously he's like 7,
get
8 years
tetanus.
old, and he can't barely hold this thing, but he's like able to like stand it up, and his little sister's like standing away, and he drops it. This big pole lands on her head.
In her head. Yeah.
Did she die?
Long
No.
story short, no, she like cracked her skull. You could see her brain. Her mom,
Yeah, like your hand, but her brain.
Yeah.
her
yeah.
mom was like crying and like screaming because she's like waiting for the ambulance to come, but like she's like showed everybody. You could
Look
literally
at my
see her
daughter's brain.
It's pretty
Like-
crazy.
Oh my god.
All she was doing was holding it with the cloth, and like she's like knocked
Yeah, and
out.
then she had like a band. She had a cast on her head. She should have.
that was ugh.
It was crazy.
That was oh man.
It was crazy.
That was
and
so
then
bad.
we another story, quick one. We had a friend coming over, and me and Cameron used to share a room, so we had bunk beds, so one vertical, one horizontal, right? And we did this game where you would roll off the top bed, land on the bottom bed.
Oh yeah. Classic.
Easy peasy. And our friend missed. He broke his arm.
Ooh.
Who was that? Was that Alec?
I don't remember his name. I think it started with an A, but I know he was one of the
Alex.
neighbors, maybe. But yeah, so we did it, and we're like, oh, haha, this is fun. You land, whatever. And then we're like watching him go. He's like, oh, my turn. He rolls off.
Yikes.
Yeah.
I don't even think I've ever actually heard a bone break before in real life.
I mean, yeah, not in real life. Other than that, I was gonna say videos, but that's not real life. But it is, isn't it?
I don't think I have either.
Well, you heard his arm crack, right? Yeah. That's something
yeah.
that's gonna stay with you forever.
Personal
Anytime you eat a piece
injuries.
of the celery or something.
That's crazy.
Oh man.
Okay, well, that's going to be our episode of the Paper Bag Club podcast today. Thank you for joining us. We love to have you. And thanks for Cameron showing up, telling us about our craziest, most embarrassing injuries we have. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit that bell to get notified anytime we come out with a new episode. And follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. If you're not watching us on YouTube, you can also catch us on Spotify, Google Play, and iHeartRadio. As always, we're always waiting on iTunes to figure out. Also, we want to shout out our Patreon. We're going to have a link in the bio underneath. We love doing this for you guys, and any support we can get always helps us to try to bring out the best content possible for
Beef
you.
out our production. Get a couple more mics, headphones. Just make us look nice.
And don't forget to
sound
tune
nice.
in next week for the next episode of the Paper Bag Club.
Don't kick cactuses.
Don't kick cactuses.
That is the moral.
No, we're gonna make a dunce hat. And we're gonna make a dunce of the episode. You have to wear it. Second you say something dumb. You bring up a story where you were dumb. Boop.
Let me get that dumb side. I got a dumb story.
You have to wear it for at least the entirety of your story, or for 5 seconds afterwards.